Thanks for tuning in to Minds of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and with me today I have Geroge Bileca. He is the co-founder and chief digital officer of VoxelArchitects. George, thanks for coming on the show today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Luis. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, of course, man. So there's been a lot of news lately about, the metaverse has been a buzzword going around all over the place. And I'm not sure if you saw what Xbox had done recently with creating like a museum where you can go visit in the metaverse, if you will, their history of, the Xbox. And there's also actually a private one where you can link, where you can actually put in your account information and you can actually see your history. Like they made like a customized museum for your history in the Xbox world. Have you seen anything about that?
I've seen something similar to that. I didn't personally see the Xbox One, but I experienced with some really cool stuff from the PlayStation side. Personally, I'm more of a PlayStation guy, but Xbox is pretty cool too. Yeah, I've seen, for example, PlayStation did this game with this basically little human that is representing their brand, representative of the new PS5 console, and you are able to jump in this, let's say, mini game and walk through the entire history of the PS5, PS4, PS3, and you are able to basically actually interact, jump on these consoles, open the disk slot, and find out more information about them. And I heard in the news, I read that Xbox has done something similar to that, but I never really like gotten into it and really studied it. But I find that concept really cool, and it's actually what a lot of people are doing right now in the metaverse. So yeah, love that.
Yeah, it is really cool. And Adidas too. Did you recently see the news with Adidas, I think partnering with Bored Ape Yacht Club to do some like apparel in the metaverse too?
I didn't see that one. I didn't.
Yeah. I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think they are partnering with the Bored Ape Yacht Club in some capacity, which is pretty cool, because we have all these big companies trying to enter into this virtual world. And I think your company is going to play a huge role in allowing them to make the transition into the virtual world. So if you can go into a little bit about what you guys do exactly over at Voxel Architects, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so we basically build virtual buildings in the most popular virtual worlds right now on the blockchain, which are basically Decentraland, Somnium Space, Sandbox, and CryptoVoxels. Those are like the biggest so far that I know of, and I know there are a lot of more coming up, and we are researching into them. But yeah, to give you a little bit of background, we have started 2 years ago in CryptoVoxels, where we have done our first build. So that was basically a car dealership. So the way that we actually got into the metaverse in the first place was through basically a good friend of mine and my mentor, which is Leandro Bellone, which is the founder of NFT Studios also. So Leandro had this digital car company, and still has it, Crypto Motors, which he founded, if I reckon, in 2017. When he looked at CryptoKitties, he was really inspired by NFTs, and having a lot of experience in the car industry, working for big brands like BMW and Rolls-Royce. He was basically designing the bodies of these cars. He kind of like started to do his own thing and created some NFTs based on some cars that he was personally designing with some of his friends. And that was really cool of him to basically be able to transition a skill that you basically use in the automotive industry into the digital space. And that opened basically a lot of opportunities. I was actually one of Leandro's students. He was basically teaching me how to build these digital cars properly. I also studied car design, and I was like really interested into getting into this car design space, into the car design industry. But yeah, long story short, pandemic started, and then we were kind of stuck at our homes. And one of the first metaverses, so to say, first virtual worlds appeared, which was CryptoVoxels. And when CryptoVoxels appeared, we got a land from a good friend of Leandro and an amazing advisor, which is Whale Shark. He said, "Hey guys, I have this land here. You want to try something out?" And we say, "I mean, why not?" And we kind of started to experiment with it and create Vox models and see, really like understand how CryptoVoxels works. I was back then really familiar with games like Minecraft, like Sims. I have played it since I was a kid, and I have a background in architecture because I finished I finished the high school in the architecture and design profile, and then I moved to car design, right? Because I really like cars. But for some reason, architecture kind of always stuck with me. And I found out that car design and architecture are transferable skills. In terms of when you are designing a car, you are creating all these sensible lines, you are creating this basically unitary design, and the same applies for buildings, right? So if you look like my favorite architects, for example, which is Frank Gehry and Zaha Hadid, they are applying the same design process in their buildings as people in the car industry are applying in their cars, like Lexus is doing, for example, when they inspire the interior of a car out of a leaf. Yeah, but this was kind of a side note. I started to transfer these skills basically into CryptoVoxels, and we basically took all the Crypto Motors cars and voxelized them and design a dealership around those cars, like a super modern dealership, and kind of fill it up. And from the emptiness of CryptoVoxels, because when we started, CryptoVoxels was really empty. There was this building, like, was super detailed with cars in it and links and all that stuff. And we kind of got noticed by Ben Nolan, which is the creator of CryptoVoxels. And we also got noticed by a lot of other people who are investing into the space, like really, really early investors, because that's what you had in the space at that time, that were buying this virtual land that basically people were having doubts about it. So when I started to work in CryptoVoxels, a land was about $500, and now it's sitting at around $20,000 for one parcel of land. So from these early adopters, they having recognized our work, they asked us basically if we can build something for them. They wanted to create these meeting spaces, these galleries for their private events. So we said, why not? It's the pandemic. We're stuck in house anyway. Let's just go for it. It's fun. I enjoy it. So yeah, we started to build. And after that, we started to get more and more clients, like 2 clients per month, 3 clients per month, 4 clients per month, until it totally got out of control. And I was like, okay, we got to get more people. We got to hire more people. I cannot take it anymore, you know? So we got like 2 people hired that started to do voxel modeling full time, basically. And we started creating a lot of assets, and we started to take on more projects. And then we also got kind of sucked in the world of Decentraland because we were really interested in exploring other metaverses too. We find really interesting the concept of building on a owned virtual land. And we have also hired a poly modeler to help out with that. I was basically the brain behind all the operations. I was kind of designing every single build and giving the design to the guys, and they were like building it. Yeah, so fast forward to now, to 2021, almost 2 years after, we are sitting at about 20 people working full-time in Voxel Architects, out of which we have 2 architects that are working full-time, 1 concept artist, 1 developer, and the rest are 3D modelers. and there's me, and Landro, who we are
Yeah.
kind of handling the operations. And yeah, it's been a long ride, and like I appreciate the support of everyone that we work with. We had the opportunity to be with big companies like Sotheby's, like Consensus, Mocha, the Museum of Crypto Art, and many other brands that we are still working with, but we cannot disclose at the moment. But yeah, it's been a ride. What can I
Yeah,
say?
that's awesome. It's really awesome the growth that you guys have experienced in such a short amount of time. Now, in the crypto world and blockchain world, 4 or 5 years is a long, long time because a lot happens in like a week. But in speaking in our meat space here, the amount of time that you guys have been in that industry and the kind of clients that you're bringing in is really impressive. If I'm not mistaken, I've heard from prior interviews that you guys have done work for Metacoven. For those who don't know Metacoven, he is known for being a very early investor in Bitcoin, and I think he turned $5,000 into $1 billion or something like that from his investments. And he actually purchased, I think, the Beeple artwork that was like $69 million. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys did some work with him to facilitate, to construct the building for the art gallery to display that artwork. Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That was back in 2020, end of 2020. I remember Metaverse contacted us, and he wanted to build his virtual headquarters in CryptoVoxels, kind of like a proof of concept, right? So he actually bought a super cool car, which was a car from F1 Delta time, the 111, right? And he bought it for $100,000, and we were like, "Wow, that's crazy." He owns like the best car in that game, so he wanted us to create a voxel model out of that and create an entire room for it, and also a meeting space for them and a gallery, and kind of like this massive tall building that represents their brand, which is one of the tallest buildings in crypto voxels right now. And 1 month after that, he contacted us again, and he said, "Guys, I have the most amazing project ever." And then I don't know if you know about this, but besides the $69 million artwork, there are some artworks that people are not talking about, which are the 21 edition Beeple artworks that he won the auction of back in 2020. And he said, "I want to create a museum around this. I want this to be special, like the B20 is going to be special." So we said, "Yeah, we're all in for it." So we kind of started iterating, creating a design, like a super brutalist design with a sci-fi interior to kind of match the metaverse thematic. And we created 4 museums, which basically have more or less the same design in 4 different metaverses, showcasing this interoperability between each and every metaverse, right? So we had one in Somnium Space, one in Decentraland, and one in CryptoVoxels. And even though I completely lost my Christmas vacation last year, I was super happy to be part of this project. It's like no regrets because I had so much fun doing it. Yeah, it was amazing. And then 2 months after, he purchased the 69 million Beeple artwork, the first 5,000 days. Where was it auctioned? Was it auctioned at which auction house was it?
I'm not sure what the auction house was exactly. But yeah, that's an insane amount of money that he paid for it. And obviously the guy is a visionary because he saw Bitcoin being, worth a lot more than what it was at the time. And when you watch the interviews that he did regarding the artworks that he purchased, the art pieces that he purchased, you know, there's an obvious future for the digital artwork space. And obviously you guys are, paving the way for a new industry here to allow for people to display their artworks, especially these new crypto rich people, which leads me into talking about another person that you worked with that is probably one of the coolest NFT projects I've heard of, and that's the Tom Sachs Rocket Factory. If I'm not mistaken, I also heard something about you guys working with them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that was more of NFT Studio side. I actually wanted to mention them, and we are kind of developing something really cool for them. But it's still kind of under the radar right now. But to mention like the Rocket Factory, that was entirely NFT Studios' job. That NFT Studios is basically the parent company of Voxel Architects, and NFT Studios also own brands like Crypto Motors, Pixel Chain, Raregochi. I don't know if you heard about Raregochi, um, and Zero X Suite, which is basically a suite of apps that is currently under development. That is basically we are trying to develop infrastructure solutions for the blockchain. I'll get more into that in a minute. But yeah, basically NFT Studios designed from the ground up, like the system between the system for the rockets, the assembly, the minting, the very low gas fees that were like behind the minting, and it was crazy. We have like extremely good developers. I'm really proud of them of what they did.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really awesome, the kind of people that you guys are working with so far. And so, do you think moving forward, especially as the metaverse expands and more people are, entering it in some way, shape, or form, and I guess a better way to phrase it would be the virtual worlds, because the metaverse arguably has always existed with the internet.
I
So,
agree with that.
go ahead.
Yes, I actually wanted to point out that for some reason I keep telling those virtual worlds metaverses. This is basically a mistake in my speech, because they are basically virtual world built in the metaverse. That's also a discussion that I had with Leandro. And people basically should kind of know the difference of this. Metaverse is basically all the cluster of applications that exist on the internet, including the virtual worlds.
Mhm. Right, right. And so where I was going with that is with these virtual worlds and companies and big brands and wealthy individuals wanting to take part in this new economy, that, and even not just wealthy individuals, but anybody can take part in it, really. I mean, the barrier to entry is pretty low. And so with that being said, do you think that in order for architects to remain relevant in this ever changing world, they'll have to have some digital background, in constructing buildings? I mean, we already have like BIMs, we already have digital twins. So do you think that building in the virtual real estates is going to be another component that architects are going to need to learn in order to be relevant in this new economy?
Yeah, definitely. An architect should 100% have to know these digital skills, but more important than that, the architects would have to know a little bit of gaming too. And I think that's important, because all these interactions that are happening inside a building in a metaverse, those are gaming elements coded by a developer, for example. So you also need to take that into account when you build something. So while you don't have structural engineers to calculate the resistance of your build, you have developers to explain you the constraints of the build, what's possible and what's not. So basically what I can say is that the developers are the engineers of the metaverse, more or less. But the problem that we have with architects today, the problem that I see is that I have a lot of friends that went to an architecture university, and I had the opportunity to go there too, and I chose not to. And the thing that I see is that the creativity of the architect, it's very limited. This university are teaching the architects how to build structures, but they are not teaching them how to be creative, and that's a huge problem for the metaverse. That's a huge problem that I see, because let's say you look at an architectural render and you see, let's say, a block with apartments, and it looks kind of like simple, but you look at famous architects like Mies van der Rohe or Frank Gehry, and they were basically pioneers in their space. They were pushing the boundaries of architecture. They were being extremely creative. The Louis Vuitton Foundation, for example, of Frank Gehry, it's a masterpiece because it's inspired by the flow of the water. It's inspired by fish. It's inspired by nature, a trend that you also see in Zaha Hadid. It's a thing that is also prevalent in car industry. And now I'm coming back to that thing of saying like these skills are interchangeable. The creativity of the architect is the most important thing that they need to take into account when they're building in the metaverse, because people don't want blocks. People don't want regular museums. They want something out of this world to escape the monotony of the real world. So why would you build like a simple block in a metaverse in the first place? So yeah, digital skills, a must. Knowledge of gaming and a lot of creativity.
So do you think that's what attracted you to the digital side of, the architecture is the ability to be more creative? Because essentially the sky's the limit in these virtual worlds and what you can do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, while I have clients that still request traditional buildings, I think they have their place too in the metaverse because they serve as a bridge between the real and the digital. I mean, when I first entered the metaverse, the buildings were kind of messy. They were like a complete mess because you were walking around them and you didn't know in which direction to go. Up was down and down was up, and then suddenly you were hitting a glass wall. So I kind of said, okay, let's build something that's more relatable so people understand where to go from and how to navigate this metaverse. And from there, we can build something that's crazier, that's more out of this world when people kind of start to get the hang of it. Like we did with B20, for example. B20 is completely different from everything that we did. I mean, you have like a teleporting system where you teleport to different art pieces inside a building instead of walking up to them. We have 4 floating cubes on top of the building that you can only teleport to. You cannot go with the elevator, you cannot walk through them. So yeah, this is kind of like my take on this.
Right. Yeah. So maybe this question is maybe it's not relevant, but I'm going to give it a shot because I feel that there is an intersection between the two. And I mentioned it briefly, and that was digital twins. Do you think that digital twins will play a role in the future of like virtual architecture
Yes.
because you're just going to mimic what you already have in the real world, right?
Best example, Sotheby's. When we work with Sotheby's, they literally gave us some sketches of the plans of the interior of their building, and we kind of replicated it as best as we could, and it totally works. Like digital twins, I totally see a thing. I totally see an evolution of let's say digital commerce in the space. Imagine you have a shopping mall in the real world, and then you create a digital twin in the virtual world, and you can basically do the same thing that you do in the shopping mall, but digitally. Imagine you enter this mall, you go up to a store, you take a piece of you take a t-shirt, for example, you just rotate it, you are able to click on it, you are able to buy it directly in game, and basically receive it to your house. And I find that like really cool and inspiring, and something that we are trying to do, to basically create digital twins of everything. Another example of digital twins would be one of the brands we work for, which is E1337 Elite, which is a brand of Whale Shark, founded by Whale Shark. It's a gaming clothing brand. So you have the ability to buy real versions of a hoodie and digital versions of the same hoodie using their token, Elite token. And you can only buy those with a token through MetaMask, but you are able to execute this transaction with a token through a payment gateway that we created, which is 0xPay. So it's kind of like a PayPal, but for crypto, with paying directly with MetaMask. So yeah, specifically speaking about e-commerce, that's what I wanted to mention. Another use case would be offices. So you have office buildings, you have the real offices, and then you have the digital twins of the offices in the metaverse, and you can do so many things with those. We've been speaking with clients. If you have a meeting, you can just create a glass enclosure, and you can go in that meeting room, and you can have an NFT basically acting as a key to access that meeting room and discuss with your peers, and many more things to have,
Right.
The sky is the limit.
Now, this question popped up as you were talking about this because with digital twins, I feel that a lot of new jobs will be created and a lot of old jobs, traditional jobs, will have to be evolved in a way in order to keep up with the new technology. But so do you think that there's going to be like any, or maybe this is a stupid question, but is there any maintenance needed for the buildings that are in these virtual worlds, like maintaining the code or doing, I don't know. I'm not privy to any of this knowledge, but is there any maintenance that needs to be done? Any upkeep?
Yes, there is, in some specific cases. For example, there is the case where you have an art gallery and you have to basically replace the artworks in the art gallery. There is also the case when, let's say, the virtual world pushes an update, and basically the updates messes up some of the elements in the build, or messes up with the code that our developer has implemented. So that's when we have to kind of come back and refine those things. But for the artworks, for example, we have created a system. We have our own content manager system in which, for example, someone builds something in Decentraland and they want to swap out the artworks. They won't have to go through the Decentraland redeployment process. They can just go to our website, and in our website, they can just exchange the artworks one by one by themselves, and they will automatically appear in Decentraland. So we're working in actually improving that, finding problems and finding solutions for them.
Nice. Now, when you were mentioning the artworks, I couldn't help but think about the fact that there's a lot of NFTs. There's this misconception that all NFTs are on the blockchain. A lot of them are not. They're actually on like what are called, I think, like interplanetary file servers. So it's not technically blockchain. It just leads you, like the data just points to a URL, like a website or something. So have you ever had like an issue with a piece of art that you have in a gallery where the link is like lost, like the server went down or something, and so you have
Yes.
to on that? Okay.
Yes, that happened in some links on OpenSea when we had to put them, and then we went to OpenSea and they were like 404, this link is broken, but 10 minutes ago it was there.
Right.
Sometimes that happens.
Gotcha.
But other than that, we really didn't have too many problems with NFTs
Okay.
so far.
Nice. That's good to know. And now switching it up a little bit here, talking about the platforms that one can use to build or interact in these virtual worlds, such as Decentraland, CryptoVoxel, Sandbox. Do you think that there will be one that wins at the end of the day? Because right now, like somebody like myself, I'm hesitant in buying digital land in one of them because it's a big investment. And I also don't want to purchase land somewhere that might not win at the end of the day. And so it's too early to tell. And so, just from your personal opinion, if you could provide, I know you guys do business with all three, but is there one that you think is sort of leading the pack in innovation and user face? The how friendly the user interface is.
This is a really hard question. It's really because I love working in all of them, and I work in all of them, and all of them have their good parts and their bad parts. Like everything else in this world. It depends what you are trying to do. For example, I cannot say that one is better than the other. I absolutely cannot say that because, for example, you take Sandbox, and Sandbox, it's tailored for creating games, and it's really good at it. Like it has an engine developed for that. Whereas Decentraland and CryptoVoxels are more of social platforms in which people meet, have conferences, they visit art galleries. For example, in Sandbox, at the moment, like where we stand right now, you cannot really code, but you can create your own quest lines and you can create your own game interactions through their engine. But for example, in Decentraland, you are able to code whatever you want basically in there. If you want to have like a specific button somewhere and you want it to be clickable like this, it should be possible. CryptoVoxels is very good at streaming, like video streaming, Twitch streaming. It's seamless. Like I was blown away like by how good this works. We had actually an event with a big music producer, Kashmir, um, and he was actually showcasing his new album, Harmonica Andromeda, in CryptoVoxels in one of the galleries that we built. And he actually had an interview on Twitch live in CryptoVoxels, and there were like 500 people sitting in there and watching the interview. And there was also Kashmir that was on stage in the virtual world, and you can actually walk up to him and greet him. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So each one of those have their strengths and weaknesses. Decentraland has a very nice art style. CryptoVoxels is more, and Sandbox are more inspired by Minecraft, but they are ultimately serving the similar purposes. And all of them are great in their own way.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that was a really good answer.
Yeah. I think it all comes down, like in terms of getting your land, it all comes down to your personal preference. Like what if you are into gaming, get land in Sandbox. If you are into social hubs and brands, get land in CryptoVoxels and Decentraland, right?
Yeah. So from what you're describing, they all have their own market fit. So it's not even so much that they're competing with each other; they serve different purposes. Is that right?
Exactly.
Gotcha. That's good to know because, like I said, I was hesitant because I don't know a lot about the three of them. I mean, I visited CryptoVoxels, I visited Decentraland. I've never actually been in Sandbox in any way, shape, or form, other than the website, than to see like the items that they sell and things like that. But so that's really good to know. Now, I actually want to go back on your personal history here and find out when it was that you discovered cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Was it around the time that you started working, to build the voxel architects, or have cryptocurrencies and NFTs been on your radar for a while?
It was way before when I started to work with Landro, and he started to show me how to build the cars. That he introduced me to his cars, basically to his NFTs cars, crypto motors. And I actually knew about, let's say, crypto before, but never knew about NFTs until then. And I found really interesting this topic because we were working in an office. It was really funny back then. In 2019, we were working in an office and there were people walking to us. We were sharing an office and they were walking to us and they were like, what are these? They're like, they are cars, digital cars. Cool. And can I drive them? Not yet. Can I play with them? Not yet. Are they toys or anything? Not yet. But what are they? NFTs. And what can you do with them? Do people actually buy this, But they were not understanding the concept about NFTs. And I didn't understand the concept until a couple of months later when I actually understand that NFTs are basically digital certificates of ownership. NFTs, people are saying, oh, I can go and download this image from the internet. I can just, pirate it. There has even, I think, a pirate, like a pirate bay for NFTs has appeared right now, but it's not possible because it's a code behind it. You cannot just pirate an NFT. It's a certificate of authenticity. You cannot just pirate, for example, your let's say your house papers, right? It proves that you own the house and you own the land that your real house stands on. Same thing with NFTs. And yeah, that's basically when I found out about NFTs, and I was like, this is actually a really cool concept, and it opens the door for so many industries, especially the gaming industries. I was an avid gamer, and I know a little bit about microtransactions and what the companies are trying to do. And the best comparison that I make to people to make them understand what NFTs are is that imagine you are in a game and you're trying to buy the in-game item, right? The game has a currency, and you buy that digital currency that the game has created, which is completely centralized. So you exchange your real money for that digital currency, and with that digital currency, you buy the in-game items. But the thing is, you may be able to sell this on like a layer 2 solution or layer 3 solutions on other website, these items, or sell your account. But for example, in the moment you have taken your money out, your fiat money, and paid for that digital currency, you cannot exchange that digital currency back into fiat money so seamlessly. You cannot exchange your skin that you own in the game back for money. You cannot sell it directly in the market. That's the thing. And if you look at games like Axie Infinity, you buy Axies, you play with them, you earn money with them, and at the end of the day, you can still sell that Axie that you pay $300 for 2K, right? So that's the power of blockchain gaming. And for most of the gamers, I know there has been a lot of hate regarding the NFTs because of their outrageous prices, and I kind of agree with them on one point. But I don't think anybody should hate on NFTs just because there are so many scammer websites and so many expensive projects. I think they should open their arms and welcome the NFTs into the space, and maybe NFTs in the future will be, they don't have to be $300. They can be 50 cents or $1, but at least it will be yours. It's a collectible. It's like buying a very expensive figurine of a Pokemon, and then you sell it 30 years after for 10 times the price.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important what you just said there, because I've always made the argument against blockchain gaming. I'm for it, but the argument I would make against it is that why would I spend $500 to get this collectible NFT when I can play really good games and get these free characters? Like, yeah, there's the fact that I can build up that, I can sell that character for a higher amount, a higher price down the road. But the barrier to entry, I feel, is really high. But this isn't new or anything different than what happens in any other industry when you have new technology emerging. It usually is pretty costly initially, but then after time, the price is lower, and then more people are able to get in, which I kind of see happening with blockchain gaming, being that it's still so new. And, like, it almost seems inevitable, right? Because as you said, in games, there's these microtransactions that already take place. So there was already this one-way economy in so many video games where you would just pour more money into the game just to improve your player, your team, whatever it is, and get only, the improvements in return. But now with blockchain, we're opening up the economy so that way it's both ways. So that way you can put money into it, but then also, if that NFT you have goes up in value, or you do something in the game to give that character more value, you can then sell it, right? So it's almost inevitable that that was ever going to happen. Now, I want to touch on virtual reality a little bit, because I can't help but see that that too is also inevitable to incorporate blockchain gamings and even your work. So what popped that in my mind was when you were talking about NFTs, and you were in the office with the people that you were working with, and they were like, can we drive the cars? What can we do with the cars? But eventually, I'm assuming, people will be able to buy these digital cars, and maybe with a pair of VR goggles can drive them and feel very immersed in that, situation. So what are your thoughts on virtual reality and blockchain gaming and what you guys are doing?
I mean, as a side note to what you said, you can already put your VR goggles and drive the cars. You can just go in Insomnium space, you have the cars, you put your VR goggles and race with other people. We have a couple of cars already there. Leandro is a good friend with Arthur, the creator of Somnium, and they kind of collaborated in this project of bringing cars to this VR world. But I think VR world, while it's gonna be the next step forward, obviously. You know what they say about people, like what kind of like what we imagine we are able to do, because basically our imagination, it's basically how can I put it? It's a combination of what our eyes and brain has witnessed during our lifetime, combined and creating something new. I don't know how to explain it. It's basically the definition of art, right? We are not creating things out of thin air. We are always getting inspiration from somewhere. And what we see in Ready Player One with a VR, I think that's inevitable. That will happen. What we see, let's say, is probably going to happen in 100 years, 200 years. Maybe we're probably not going to leave by the time that really happens. But it will happen eventually. Regarding now, if we're speaking about like what the technology is now, I think it's a long way from being polished. I think it needs a lot of time to evolve. But for example, if I go in Crypto Voxels right now, I can already put my VR goggles on and I can see the buildings that I did in VR. And that alone is impressive. Being able to see your creation in VR, being able to see the cars that you worked in VR in a real scale. And I think in 10 years, we will have better polished VR games, and VR will kind of become a standard because of all these recent launches of cordless VR headsets. Yeah, kind of this is my take on it. So if we're gonna have more and more lightweight cordless solutions of VR headsets, VR is eventually gonna take over traditional screen gaming. Maybe we're gonna have a meeting in VR in 10 years. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's already podcasts that are taking place in VR, which are really cool. And I think that's going to be a huge thing in the future, in the near future. I don't even know that it'll be 10 years, but who knows? This is all speculative, right? But yeah, so that's really cool. Now, one last question for you before we get out of here. If somebody was interested in hiring, Voxel Architects to construct a building for them, how would they go about that?
Okay, for Voxel Architects, we have created kind of a corporative structure, and we have like specific pipelines for every project that we do. The first step would be in the first contact. We usually send the clients a questionnaire, and the client usually formulates a brief of what he wants. So from our experience, we have created this questionnaire in which we ask them which universe you want to build in, which virtual world, what architecture type do you like, what type of interaction do you want, what quests would you want, what NPCs do you want in your build. And after we have that, we usually quote the clients on a price of a build, or usually we can partner with them and create something great together. And then we send this brief to the architects, and the architects start designing, start iterating this building, or the concept artist starts creating the concept for the game. And then this is handed into the 3D modelers, and after that, it's handed to the developer who ultimately codes everything that happens in the game. And voila, there you have a build in the metaverse. We deploy it, and that's it. If they want to contact us, they can just go to our website, to voxelarchitects.com. They can find us on Instagram, Voxel Architects, on Twitter at Voxel Architects, and on LinkedIn and Facebook also. So we are everywhere, and in the metaverse also.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, George, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and very, very enlightening. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was great to speak with you.
Yes, likewise.